Hello everybody, I'm Fishnet. I'm a Grandmaster, former pro player, streamer, and I guess I'm a content creator now. What you might not know about me is that I am studying computer science, I've taken classes in game design, I've watched a whole bunch of GDC talks, and I'm making my own game right now in Unreal Engine 4. So I wanted to make this video as an exercise for myself in game design, but also as a way to give feedback. So let's talk about Octavia. Octavia is a leader. She's the realm's last hope against Yagurath. She's here to rally the troops and lead her team to victory. She's awesome, she's cool, she's badass, she's inspiring, she's indomitable. But she's also none of these things. Most of this video is going to be centered around the disconnect between who Octavia is and who Octavia is. Let's go over her abilities. So she's got a gun and she's got a scope, that's cool. Already seems a bit challenging to make a leader who seems to be incentivized to sit back and shoot, but that's fine. The execution matters more than the concept. It is worth saying that the way she is right now, her unscoped shots are pretty much useless. There's no reason to use them over her scope shots, which isn't great. Her first ability, her Distortion Field, this is cool. It can be thrown, so she can have a nice impact on the fight from a distance. That's cool. It's strong. There's decent counterplay. It's a long cooldown. This is a cool ability. I like this one. This one's nice. What I don't like is this little, while active, this ability allows you to see enemies within friendly and enemy distortion fields. What's the point of this, right? Everyone on your team can already see inside your distortion fields, so all this does is make enemy Octavias able to see inside your distortion field. This is just weird. This is already a cool ability. This little thing doesn't really serve a purpose. All I've seen it do is just confuse inexperienced players. It's kind of just bloat.
Hello. Editor Fish from the future here. At the time I recorded this, I trusted what Evil Mojo said on the patch notes show.
So this is going to be a little complicated to explain. It will make perfect sense when you play it, but we'll try and do our best. So an Octavia can throw this out, and you and your team, so everyone on Octavia's team and Octavia, can see into it and out of it. Enemies cannot see into it, and enemies can't see out of it.
However, that's not the way this actually works right now. I do not know if this is a bug or if it's intended. Your team can always see through and out of the distortion field. Enemies can see through the distortion field. Enemies cannot see out of the distortion field. So the only use for this ability is to drop it on an enemy's head, which is less interesting than a one-way smoke. Again, I don't know if this is a bug or a feature. On to the rest of the video.
Let's go over her jump. It's cool, it's mobility, whatever, it's just a jump. But an issue that I have with it is that it's so high that it stops her from really using it to engage, right? You never want to run at people or start a fight because the arc is so high, so it makes you a really easy target, right? You can't do badass stuff like this clip from the trailer, so it's just not good at starting or entering a fight. It's purely mobility. The whole floating while scoped thing is cool, but it does prevent you from shooting and dash, right? Because again, the unscoped shots are so inaccurate and so low damage, you always want to scope in. And then scoping in stops your momentum, so again, it's really hard to use the jump as anything cool. It's just mobility. Her ult is cool. It feels kind of generic. I get it's supposed to be a barrage that she's calling in or something, but it doesn't really feel like that, right? I don't know whether that's the visuals or the audio or whatever. Maybe it's because the lasers are lasers instead of artillery. Maybe it's because lasers seem to come from space instead of an artillery unit behind her, or I don't know why. It just feels like lasers from the sky, but that's just the graphics and sound design, right? The ult itself, it's really slow and telegraphed, so it's not going to be used in a duel or anything. It's just going to miss, and if you're trying to land it on someone from far away, well, first of all, it is slow and telegraphed, and it's also very difficult to actually land it in a specific area just because of the pattern that it has. And again, this isn't bad, right? It's telegraphed, it's easy to dodge, which means it's just area denial, which is fine. Area denial as an ult is fine, but just whenever I hit someone with this, it just feels like I shouldn't have, right? It feels cheesy. It doesn't really feel deserved. Doesn't feel earned. For her passives, this is the bit that really got me thinking about this character because of how little sense this makes to me. So Octavia's a leader, right? It's her theme, it's her lore, it's her character, and how does she lead? Well, we don't really know too much, right? She's got her lore description in the game. That doesn't really say too much. We've got the trailer, right? So what we can get from that trailer is that she's, the last hope. She's really cool. She's really badass. She's gonna get in there and, lead her team to victory. And how is it implemented in game? With passives. If you work at Evil Mojo, I want you to read this out loud and think about it. She leads with passives. This is bad for multiple reasons. It affects nobody's gameplay. Nobody's playing that different just because they have 10% cooldown reduction. There's no teamwork involved. There's no leadership going on. It's just a team-wide stat buff. It's boring. Like, you hit a button and you get stronger. There's only one decision to make at the start of the game. It's going to be very difficult to balance because since you pick it for the whole game, you're going to pick the one that's strongest and the most one-size-fits-all, right? So it's boring, it doesn't actually do anything leadership-like, and it's tough to balance. One thing that I'm kind of hesitant to bring up because it's not really related to design, but oh boy, this character's strong, right? Her gun is, again, borderline useless if you're unscoped, but once it is scoped in, you have the highest DPS in the game with decent range, right? Like, how are these characters supposed to compete with this character? The advantage that she brings with her credit passive is kind of absurd. Even the other passives, right? Her alt charge and her CDR, they're both really strong. They're not as game-breaking, but they both put either the alt economy or the item economy heavily in your favor. Octavia is not the commander, she's the army supply chain. So she's very, very strong right now. So just to sum up everything, her unscoped shots don't have a use. She has bloat on Distortion Field. Her jump can't be used to do badass things, it's only mobility. The float in scope prevents actually shooting while you're jumping. The alt feels like RNG and feels undeserved. And she's supposed to be a leader, but she has passives that don't actually change how you play. So let's go over some potential solutions for this. First of all, let's nerf this character's damage a bit. Like 1,667 damage plus headshots is kind of insane. Like, we can give her a bit more range if we need to, right? But we don't need... This is power creep right here. This is a character who's just going to outclass the characters that are in the game right now. For the unscoped shots, you could buff the accuracy, preferably the accuracy when she starts and also when she finishes. So just let them be like a finisher or a close-up thing, right? Just give unscoped shots a reason to exist. Remove bloat on Distortion Field, right? Just clean things up, make them less confusing. Jump should be able to be used more horizontally, right? So you can do cool things, you can be more active. If you want to incentivize aggressive play, then you can mess with the fall off, so you encourage people being aggressive with jump. For the scoping in the air, removing basically your ability to shoot, right? Because we want people to do cool things, right? We want people to like jump through the air and like hit those shots, right? That just looks cool. But we also want people to do like this cool floaty thing. So make this a loadout card, right? Make floating while you're scoped in the air a loadout card. It can replace this card. This one is not strong and it's boring. And this way, by making it a loadout card, you get the best of both worlds. And the last thing, if you're a programmer, please make sure you have something to hold on to. I know passives must have taken forever to get working, but this is the biggest and most important change. Make Octavia's passives her ult. So for what this would look like, right? You would ult, and then you'd pick, either CDR, credits, shielding, or alt charge, and for the next 8 seconds, your team either gets 20% cooldown reduction, or double the amount of credits gained, or 500 shield, or an extra 30% alt charge gained. So right off the bat, because the duration is shorter and the uptime isn't the entire game, they can be stronger and more exciting. This would also be an active ability, not a passive one. It'd be the Octavia and the Octavia player choosing something that lets the team do something, which is very leadership-y, right? Just the duration makes teamwork a necessary part of it, instead of the passives that we have right now, right? It also wouldn't break the game as bad, right? It's okay if alts are a little crazy, they're alts. It would also be easier to balance, right? It's more likely that there would be more good options, because over the course of the game, there's more scenarios than just the start of the game, right? So you're more likely to have a one-size-fits-all strongest category. If you want an advantage in a fight, right, you can pick cooldown reduction or the shield, right, depending on the situation. Maybe if you're starting a fight, you want to go for the cooldown reduction. Maybe you have certain characters you want to go for the cooldown reduction, but the shield is be like an all-around, you know, good for every situation. You could do the credits to snowball, maybe, if you were already winning a fight, because if you chose credits, it wouldn't necessarily give you an advantage in the fight, because it would only be an increase in credits. It wouldn't just like give you more for free. And then you could pick alt charge if you know you needed something with alts. Again, there's a lot of possibilities. You could probably break this, but ideally that's where like playtesting and the whole balance thing comes in. And the difference here is the way you break the game, right? Maybe you use Octavia ults with the credits and you combo that with Fury ult, and then you try to win a fight and get a lot of credits that way. Or maybe you Octavia ult and you farm credits on the payload and get the credit advantage from that. Or maybe you use the CDR ult when you have like a Atlas who's rushing Kronos, and then you open up with that and you can get multiple big walls during a fight. Maybe like your team is really close to an important ult, like a Grok ult, and you know, you pop your ult charge and he gets his ult faster. There's things you can do, right? But the difference between the way she is now with the passives and having those passives be her ult is these all involve active teamwork, they involve leadership, they involve decision making and communication from the Octavia player. This is all really good stuff, and it would replace the one decision made in the beginning of the game for a passive ability that's more likely to be a one-size-fits-all. So again, here's the summary of what I suggested. That's all my thoughts on Octavia, so I hope everybody enjoyed. I hope Evil Mojo or someone on AOC sees this, and I will see you guys later. Bye-bye.
Alright, we're gonna end it with a punch. Guaranteed. Never mind. I'm kinda sick though.